and welcome to Advancing Sustainable AWS Infrastructure to Power Innovative AI Solutions. I'm joined today by Michael Stiller, the New Growth Initiatives at NASDAQ. We're really excited to be here today with you all. What are we going to cover today? First, I want to talk about the scale that AWS's infrastructure is really showcasing, how we're operating, and the responsibility that we have in scaling our infrastructure in a sustainable way. Then I'm going to share how AWS is advancing that infrastructure through innovations in terms of sustainability and what AWS has been doing for years in order to get to where we are today. Next, we're going to talk about some new innovations that I'm really excited to be here today sharing and explain how AWS's global infrastructure is going to support AI workloads and really give some examples about how AI is going to be even more supporting our sustainable outcomes and goals. And then I'm really excited to have Michael join us from NASDAQ. He's going to share with us the Sustainable Lens product that was built with Amazon Bedrock. Mike will tell you more about how they built it and how it's further helping their own customers. First, before we jump into the details, I want to give just a quick tidbit about myself. I've been with AWS for 12 years at this point. I've been fortunate enough to be in a variety of different roles, everything from our AWS procurement space into our real estate space, where I worked in our new regions with our construction engineering teams. I also, for 5 years, ran our network deployment team, where I was inside of our data centers, scaling our global infrastructure network across 30 different countries. I started in the sustainability role in early 2023, and I've been fortunate enough to see how AWS future-proofs our programs, our operations, and how we think about designing and building our data centers as we continue to scale through our operations for our data centers. AWS was built with sustainability in mind from day one. We take a very holistic approach. We know there's not a single silver bullet that's going to solve this as we look forward to net zero carbon by 2040. When I first started in the role, one of my teenage daughters looked at me and said, "Dad, these giant computer buildings, are they really good for the earth?" On a daily basis, I strive to show her both programs and videos, data points, to really prove her wrong. I'm excited to share some of those innovations that she gets excited about as well. And then beyond that, tech, energy consumption has all been embedded in our own individual lives. Everything from the phones and computers you all are sitting and using today to the electric vehicles that you're using to get from point A to point B, including our data centers. We want to continue to make not only AWS's infrastructure, but the overall place a better space for ourselves and our children. As the cloud provider with the world's largest global infrastructure, it's important that we have sustainability in mind as we scale across our operations. So let's talk about our scale first. The AWS cloud spans over 108 availability zones across 34 geographic regions in 245 countries and territories. We have announced plans for more than 18 availability zones and 6 more AWS regions on the way. A core component about how AWS is continuing to evolve and democratize technology, but in my mind, the most important part is how we continue that scale and do it in a sustainable manner. In 2019, we co-founded the Climate Pledge with Global Optimism. Part of the Climate Pledge, we set our goal as net zero carbon by 2040, which was 10 years ahead of the original Paris Agreement. As a company, we're continuing to make progress in a variety of different ways with interim goals towards net zero carbon by 2040. A couple of those goals: first, 100% renewable energy. Our goal that we took was to match our overall global consumption of energy with 100% renewable energy by 2030. I'm excited to announce that we've met that goal in 2023, 7 years ahead of our original goal. We're also 41% of the way towards our ambitious water positive goal by 2030. AWS continues to innovate on how we're using water across our facilities by using cloud technologies to improve water efficiency. We have 21 projects on a global level that return up to 7 billion liters of water on an annual basis. Looking ahead to 2040, Amazon is exploring all viable forms of carbon-free energy to help not only our business, but also the global society transition towards a carbon-free energy future. I'm going to touch on more details about that in a little bit. But being sustainable is a lot more than just surrounding carbon and water. Building a circular business is an imperative, especially as a data center company, for us to reach net zero. Let's hear from my team about circular economy at AWS.
AWS is building a more sustainable business because that is what our customers want. And one of the ways we are driving sustainability at our data centers is by expanding our circular economy efforts. I'm Manju Murugesan, and I work on the sustainability team here at AWS. Our strategy for accelerating our transition towards circularity is based on 3 pillars: design better, operate longer, and recover more. By designing better, we unlock more potential than at any other stage of circularity. We design to avoid waste by eliminating excess materials, enabling more reuse and recycling, and using materials that are safer for people and the environment. Next, we plan to operate longer through robust maintenance of data center hardware to avoid early retirement. At AWS, we consolidate individual functional hard drives from multiple aging racks into fewer, fully functional racks, extending the lifespan of S3 hard drives by up to 2 years. By sending only broken drives for recycling and avoiding the early retirement of healthy working drives on the same rack, we increase water and energy efficiency. Finally, we aim to recover more. Through repair and reuse of used equipment, we avoid the carbon and costs associated with the purchase and manufacture of new components and materials. AWS sends securely decommissioned equipment to our regional reverse logistics hubs to assess, repair, and recirculate functional equipment back into inventory or to be sold for reuse by third parties. By designing better, operating longer, and recovering more, we will continue to expand on our circular economy efforts. Our acceleration towards circularity means we use today's equipment to build tomorrow's, charting a path for AWS, our customers, and the global supply chain to reach new levels of resource efficiency and to build a more resilient future for the planet.
As Manju mentioned, we apply these circular economy principles to really decouple growth from the consumption of finite resources. The first point she mentioned around designing better, we design out waste by really eliminating excess materials, enabling reuse, recycling, and using materials that are not only safer for people, but also the environment. As of September, AWS is now using 30% recycled or bio-based materials in plastics in our products going into our data centers. Second, we work to operate longer and use our hardware longer. For example, we consolidate individual functional hard drives from aging racks into fewer fully functional racks, extending S3 hard drives by over 2 years. In 2024, we've been able to avoid the purchase of over 287,000 new hard drives. And the third prong is recovering more. By sending only broken hard drives for recycling and avoiding the early retirement of healthy working hard drives in the same rack, we're optimizing not only water, but also energy usage. Since 2023, 23.5 million components have been recycled or sold on the secondary market. And so far in 2024, more than 99% of securely decommissioned equipment sent by AWS to the reverse logistics hubs have been reused, recycled, or resold. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, 2023 is when we matched our 100% renewable energy goal, 7 years ahead of our original 2030 target. We have been able to scale our renewable energy projects to over 500 globally. We've been the largest corporate purchaser of renewable energy for 4 years running, year after year after year after year. But we're going to continue our investments and the intentions around scaling renewable energy, but we're also finding additional ways to scale sources of carbon-free energy to not only power our operations, but also continue to bring more carbon-free energy to the grids. Nuclear power is one part of that mix. It can be brought online at scale, it's highly available, and it has a proven track record in society. Amazon is investing in new projects to help scale carbon-free energy, starting here in the United States first. In October 2024, we signed 3 different agreements for small modular reactor projects as part of Amazon's plan to transition to carbon-free energy. What makes these projects and agreements unique is it's not just one specific project. We're early, we're up front in these projects, we're working with both utility companies and technology providers. These direct investments into these projects will allow us to scale carbon-free energy even faster. At AWS, we've been building for years with efficiency in mind. So let me share some of our latest updates that were announced earlier this week. First off, let's start with PUE, power usage effectiveness. AWS has been building large-scale data centers for over 18 years and GPU-based servers for more than 13 years. Today, the current generation of AWS data centers has millions of customers live globally. In a 2024 study, Accenture found that AWS's infrastructure is 4.1 times more efficient than on-premise data centers, and running optimized AI workloads on AWS can reduce the associated carbon footprint by up to 99% as compared to on-premise. On Monday, we also announced our new DC components, data center components. They've been optimized to support AI workloads and continue our path on energy efficiency. These components will serve and support new customer innovation, while we're going to design and deliver a power usage effectiveness of 1.08, compared to our current power usage global effectiveness of 1.15. PUE is just one way that we measure our data center operations efficiency. A lower PUE indicates a more efficient data center, and a perfect PUE score is 1.00, all the way on the right. AWS calculates PUE using the internationally recognized principles of the ISO standards. In 2023, AWS's data centers had a global PUE of 1.15, and our best performing site in Europe had a PUE of 1.04. These values are well below IDC's estimated PUE of 1.22 in 2023 for public cloud data centers. Beyond power usage effectiveness, there are other innovations that we're really excited to share with you. First, the latest generations of data center components are projected to reduce AWS's carbon intensity by 14%. We also have looked at the electrical and mechanical systems and made a more efficient cooling system that's expected to reduce mechanical energy consumption by up to 46% during peak cooling conditions, without increasing water usage. AWS design standards now require concrete with up to 35% reduction in embodied carbon compared to standard concrete for US designs and US data centers. We're looking to expand this requirement globally. New data center components bring all of sustainability benefits while providing over 10% more capacity for our customers as compared to our prior design. We're really excited to bring these innovations to you so you can continue to see how we support our customers. Next, AI. AI has entered our lives by storm. 2 years ago, AI was not part of our everyday conversation. Today, AI is part of the conversations at the dinner tables, with our children. My teenage daughters are fascinated by the abilities of AI to take notes and transcribe long documents and long books and give them summaries of it. They're looking to use it and brainstorm in schools and give them fresh ideas in areas where they otherwise would be stuck. But there's an emerging conversation that we're having with our families. For Amazon, we've been working with AI for years at this point. We know AI can make our lives easier. We know it can help solve a lot of the world's most pressing climate challenges. And while our new data center components will help support AI workloads, so can the continued innovation at a chip level. AWS has invested years in designing custom silicon optimized for the cloud. Customers can accelerate their sustainability innovation using AWS silicon chips and leverage them to run their cloud workloads more sustainably. Our purpose-built chips improve not only power efficiency across all our workloads, but there's some specific examples that I want to walk through. First, AWS Inferentia. It's a high-performing machine learning chip that's tailored for inference workloads. Inf2 instances are offering up to 50% better performance and a per watt over comparable Amazon EC2 instances because they're purpose-built to run large data models at scale. AWS Graviton-based EC2 instances use up to 60% less energy when compared to other EC2 instances for the same performance. They also provide the best price performance for cloud workloads running on Amazon EC2. And lastly, as you heard earlier this week, Trainium 2 is 3 times more energy efficient than Trainium 1. These innovations are allowing customers to meet and scale their sustainability goals while deploying advanced workloads. We're continuing to see customers build on all types of solutions on AWS to solve their challenges, pursue new opportunities, and continuing to use chips to deliver more for less. Amazon.com is one of those customers. Since many of those Amazon services use AI chips under the hood, Amazon has deployed a cluster of over 80,000 Inferentia and Trainium chips for Prime Day. During Prime Day this year in 2024, Amazon used over 250,000 AWS Graviton chips to power more than 5,800 distinct Amazon.com services, which was double from our previous year in 2023. What gets me most excited about this space is seeing how customers are using our sustainable infrastructure to build solutions to solve the sustainability challenges. A great example of this is our Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, Washington, Amazon's hometown. So the Climate Pledge Arena was opened in Seattle, Washington. It was opened in 2021. It's home to the NHL's Seattle Kraken, home to the WNBA's Seattle Storm. And to become the world's first ever net zero carbon arena, they needed to find ways to operate their arena more sustainably. In 2023, the Climate Pledge Arena transitioned their sustainability data management to FlexZero, which is a sustainability as a service provider, offering sustainability consulting and a highly customized sustainability SaaS platform built on AWS. Leveraging FlexZero and AWS, they're able to accelerate their efforts through advanced automation, streamlined data management, and the integration of generative AI. For example, FlexZero could also analyze comprehensive transport data, which allows the arena to promote the use of public transportation for the attendees at events that night. It eventually lowers the overall carbon footprint for attendees at each event. We're seeing more and more customers like the Climate Pledge Arena use AWS services like Bedrock to aggregate and analyze large amounts of data. They deliver more sustainable outcomes. I'm excited to introduce Michael Stiller, who leads the new growth initiatives for NASDAQ. Michael's going to describe how they built a solution using Amazon Bedrock that helps their customers overcome challenges related to large amounts of data and sustainability reporting. Michael?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah. Do a little swap here. There you go. Hey, everybody. I'm Mike Stiller. I oversee new growth initiatives for our corporates business here at NASDAQ. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about NASDAQ Sustainable Lens, which is our AI-powered sustainability research solution. We're going to talk about why we built it, how we built it. We'll show you the solution in the wild, in production, and then we'll talk a little bit about the impact that we're delivering to those that are using the solution. So let's talk a little bit about why. You all in the room are part of the solution. Each of you work at companies that are making commitments, making decisions every day. You're consumers making decisions every day, as well as builders and deciding to build on certain infrastructure and using tools every day. And so companies are making decisions every day. You notice that they're making net zero commitments, they're making water usage commitments, they're making energy efficiency commitments. Chris talked about some of those today. And so when we think about critical decisions at NASDAQ, right, critical decisions can only be made with data and rigor and research. And so long-term commitments on critical areas such as emissions, water usage, waste generated, we don't think you can make critical decisions without data, right? You need data, intelligent insights, as well as domain expertise. So that's really the reason we built NASDAQ Sustainable Lens, which is our AI-powered sustainability research platform. We'll discuss how we went from concept to commercial and show you the solution in action. We'll share some of the ROI statistics that we've been able to gather and from feedback that we've gotten from clients that are using the solution. And then when we think about coming back to customer problems and leveraging the latest in technology that scales AI, that scales and is secure, we want to do it in a responsible way. So these are all ethos of NASDAQ. So first, it all started with a question we asked ourselves a number of years ago. What if we could 10 times the sustainability program? And so what does that mean? This was about 6 or so years ago, and I was running our ESG consulting business, our sustainability consulting business. And I got a really great front row seat into all the challenges that clients, so sustainability, investor relations, accounting, finance professionals, were doing with manual sustainability research. I also got a front row seat into the challenges that my consultants were doing manually, right? Countless hours spent writing sustainability reports, researching peer disclosures, responding to internal and external stakeholders. A question might come in from a CEO or a board member, and the type of manual research that needed to go into analyzing 1,000-page annual reports or 500-page financial filings was really onerous. And this came at a time when stakes are going up. When you think about how the sustainability space is transforming as of late, regulation is become top of mind, primarily in the European region. And so back to our ambition of 10xing a corporate sustainability program and really removing the effort and time spent around reporting and research tasks, really tasks that are well served for language models. At a time when regulation and stakes were going higher, what would we need to put into place to realize this ambition of 10xing a program? So we thought about the partners that we wanted to build with, right? AWS was a natural selection, right? We have been partnered for a number of years, starting in 2015 with a solution that we launched through our investor relations segment called NASDAQ IR Insight. So one of the first cloud-native platforms within NASDAQ was built on AWS. About 3 years ago, our CEO, Adina Friedman, was on a much larger stage than this one at AWS reInvent, talking about transforming capital markets, so moving the markets to the cloud, moving exchanges to the cloud. And so we've done that on a number of our exchanges, primarily options exchanges. And then last year, we decided to obviously launch a NASDAQ Sustainable Lens, leveraging the AWS platform. So let's talk a little bit about why we did that. The first is, I would say, we were using AWS on a number of fronts, as you could tell here. AWS's focus on scale, security, and trusted resources infrastructure was paramount, right? If we were going to choose to be putting client data and our data into a solution, we wanted to make sure it was trusted and secure. The second was all the items that Chris just mentioned, a sustainable first infrastructure and philosophy. AWS stands for sustainability as much as NASDAQ stands for sustainability. We care about the same items. NASDAQ cares deeply about sustainability. And the last would be speed to market, right? And so when we thought about leveraging solutions like Bedrock, Amazon Bedrock, it was a natural selection to say, well, if we wanted to go quick to market, we felt like we had a unique differentiator in an idea and a concept. How can we get to market really quickly? And Bedrock was a natural place to build, as well as the ideal place for model choice. So let's talk about building responsibly. And so this is core to who NASDAQ is, and I know AWS has talked about this quite a bit this week at reInvent, and others have as well. So NASDAQ is really synonymous with innovation, right? From pioneering the electronic exchange to being an early adopter in cloud technologies and and the home to innovative companies as their listing venue. We just have a really interesting position and viewpoint into the world. And so as you'd expect, NASDAQ has been using AI for a number of years, obviously generative AI versus more algorithmic AI in the past. But we stood up a team, a centralized AI team in 2016, and it now has 20 people. So we have a centralized team as well as folks that are distributed within our segments. And so when generative AI became a ready and scale technology, NASDAQ really wanted to move swiftly to put generative AI into two different perspectives, I would say, in the products, as we'll talk about today with NASDAQ Sustainable Lens, or that we're talking about with NASDAQ Sustainable Lens, and then on the business. So think about productivity and making our employees a bit more productive using the transformative technology. So NASDAQ established an AI governance committee with key members of the senior leadership team from technology, risk, legal, and InfoSec. The AI governance committee examines topics such as ethics, AI-regulated law and regulation, information security, data privacy, and intellectual property with the goal of ensuring NASDAQ's uses of AI are consistent with values and business technology and strategies. This includes developing our controls framework, aligning with best practices to further enable safe and responsible adoption of AI capabilities. We have a goal to deploy AI tools for every employee by the end of this year, and we're on track to meet that goal. Internal products must actually go through the same rigorous process and governance processes that we vet external products that we bring into NASDAQ for the use of our employees. And NASDAQ Sustainable Lens went through that same process that tested accuracy and bias, all the things you'd expect from an enterprise-grade AI solution. So now that we've talked about how we built it, leveraging partners such as AWS, leveraging our ethos as responsible AI, let's talk a little bit more about the solution, and then we'll get into showing you the solution in the wild. So I would say, from the perspective of NASDAQ Sustainable Lens, what we do is we go out and collect sustainability content and financial filing content from over 9,000 companies globally. So think of it as sustainability reports, annual reports, proxy filings, climate and social documents, policies that companies put out on their websites. We also collect information from global regulators. So think of all the information that the SEC or the European regulators or some of the other international bodies are putting out about their sustainability standards and regulations. We're collecting that content as well. So we collect over 160,000 documents and extract key information from those documents. We take that content and build AI and software workflows for the sustainability domain that helps sustainability, legal, and financial professionals make better decisions more quickly. Through some of these workflows, we're processing 11 million sustainability metrics to help companies assess their readiness against specific sustainability regulations. We're extracting and processing 13 billion words from documents to find information that would previously go missed in research exercises. So we've developed advanced prompt engineering and robust data processing pipelines, as well as vector retrieval systems. Our architecture leverages custom LLM agent-like workflows for automated routing, planning, and execution. So this type of scale, data access, and sophisticated AI can really only be executed with world-class solutions and technology. And that's where we leverage AWS services for secure, scale, and responsible AI. Starting with Amazon Bedrock, which was fundamental in deploying quickly as well as at scale. We were preview users starting last summer, as well as general availability users currently. We picked it for implementation and model choice, including Amazon Titan embeddings models, as well as Anthropic Claude models. We're using AWS SageMaker, we're using AWS Batch, we're using S3, EC2, Lambda, as well as other AWS services. So right now, I've talked a little bit about the why, I've talked about what Sustainable Lens is. Now we're going to run through a demo showing you our two key workflows. We've got a number of other workflows that we house in the solution, but we'll focus on two key ones that users are getting the most value out of as clients of NASDAQ Sustainable Lens.
NASDAQ Sustainable Lens is an AI-powered sustainability research and benchmarking solution. The solution accelerates access to the insights you need to operate in a mandatory disclosure environment. Today, we will focus on two of the solution's key workflows: peer research and regulatory readiness. Let's dive in. NASDAQ Sustainable Lens is made up of 4 modules: Discover, Benchmark, Monitor, and Documents. We're currently sitting on our Discover module, which houses our ESG Assistant, as well as our search capabilities. Starting with the ESG Assistant, you'll notice we've got a set of tasks that are consistent and common questions that we get from users around peer research, navigating the voluntary and regulatory standards, as well as summarizing your own documents to provide information back for RFPs, as well as investor questions. We'll start today with a question that companies have very consistently around peer research. So in this case, we asked a question about net zero commitments from my peers, right? And so what's happening now is it's classifying the query, understanding which knowledge base to direct that query to. In this case, it's going to our over 9,000 company document knowledge base, but it could be a knowledge base around regulatory and voluntary standards, or could be a general sustainability question to go to a general sustainability knowledge base. So you'll see here it generated a great response, summarized all that information up top, also put the information in a table format for easy consumption. All the information is cited and sourced, and you can get to those documents if you like to as well. So we get you right to the page of the document in which the information is housed for side-by-side comparison. You can also export that research into a research report to make it easily shareable with colleagues. So here's an example of the research report. So we've taken folks from query and question all the way down to research report in a matter of seconds. companies around the world are preparing to meet sustainability disclosure regulations. These could be regulations in Europe, they could be regulations in other jurisdictions, but nonetheless, the regulation that's on everybody's mind is the European Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, or CSRD. Companies with operations in Europe or employees in Europe or derive revenue from Europe potentially need to meet these standards starting in 2025. So that's why Nasdaq Sustainable Lens is very excited for its gap assessment and benchmarking capabilities for a number of regulations, but in particular the CSRD. Companies can quickly understand their readiness to meet the regulation at a very granular level, as well as dive right into specific areas of the regulation to understand preparedness through AI-powered assessments. So we're going to go ahead and do that for Nasdaq specifically here. So as you see here, we've got CSRD dashboard, but we have the same for other regulations as well. And so companies can understand their overall completion level, as well as the ability to dive directly into areas of opportunity. So we're diving right into employee development here, which is an area of CSRD. And you can see there's AI-powered assessments to really understand the why behind the gaps and compliance. You can drill right into the documents to understand the source content of the information that's being pulled to drive that assessment. And you can also understand where peers are. So you can see their assessment and you can dive right into their documents to help companies understand where their gaps are today, where they potentially need to get to be compliant with regulations, as well as what do peers look like. So a combination of peer benchmarking as well as gap assessment capabilities in Nasdaq Sustainable Lens. As you've seen today, Nasdaq Sustainable Lens was built for the sustainability domain in mind. It's customized for critical sustainability and regulatory workflows that generalized AI tools just can't handle. The solution leverages the latest in Gen AI technology and techniques, combined with unique content to automate peer benchmarking activities, summarize company disclosures and regulations, and generate disclosure-first drafts through the solution's AI-powered ESG assistant. Let AI help you see data through a better lens, allowing you to turn thousands of insights into precise, smart sustainability decisions in a click.
Thank you. Yeah, we're super proud of what we built, and there's some folks here in the room today that helped build it. So I'm standing on their shoulders up here. So back to our ambition to 10x sustainability program. First thing I would say is sustainability research is an annual activity. You can see a number of the periods in which throughout the year a sustainability professional or legal professional, accounting professional might call on a solution like Sustainable Lens to perform research on a more automated basis. And so throughout the year, companies are writing and researching to inform sustainability disclosures. They're also responding to internal stakeholder queries of how do we compare to our peers, or what are others doing in the space, and having a solution at your fingertips, such as Sustainable Lens, really cuts down the time required to perform this research and produce high quality research. I would also say, we're excited to share that the proof is in the numbers. Our analysis has shown that sustainability professionals are seeing a 97% faster response time in being able to run these types of research exercises relative to performing them manually on their own, with significant cost savings. So don't just believe me and what we say. Definitely want to hear from those that are using the solution. One from Dolby, Natasha Tuck, a great example of how she's using Sustainable Lens to perform regulatory compliance work. So some of those CSRD workflows that I had shared with you before on the demo, you get to see exactly how she's performing that research. What was once hours and racked up substantial consulting costs, now we're able to provide in a matter of minutes with Sustainable Lens. And then I'll end quickly on a really impactful quote from another person that is using and has seen our solutions pretty extensively, Alua from Marvell Technologies. She says that managers can now prioritize their time and resources and outsource more laborious and data analytical work to AI instead of focusing on the mundane. They are able to go back and do more on the ground sustainability projects that really move the needle. These are problems that folks are meant to build to solve, rather than doing the mundane financial and analytical work. And really that's why we built Sustainable Lens, to 10x that sustainability program. So that's it for me today. Thanks for your time, and appreciate the attention.
Please remember to take the survey and enjoy the rest of reInvent. Hydrate, wear comfortable shoes. It's a lot of walking. Thanks, everybody.